What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more Echo the Bunnymen. We're returning to Porcupine 1983. Thank you as always to Amber. And if you didn't know, over on my Patreon, I've done my first video reaction to Echo the Bunnymen. Now, I actually started with a video for a song of theirs I've not yet reacted to here in audio form, though it's the one I knew most clearly going into this deep dive, which is to say The Killing Moon. So yes, I know that track is on the next album, Ocean Rain, so we'll get to that pretty soon. But yes, I finally did start doing my first Echo and the Bunnymen video reaction, and there will be more to follow. Now, currently, and I think for the next like 6 days or something, it's available only to full members, which you can be a full member for as little as $5 a month. But within the next week, it'll become available to free users. So yes, ultimately, anyone who joins my Patreon as a full member, you are greatly appreciated, and you not only enable what I do over there, but you enable what I do here on YouTube. And of course, I do also appreciate the free members too, though again, there are some perks if you decide to become a full member. In any case, the next tune on Porcupine is Clay. It's a one-word title. Those are always tough to get a read on. If you take the title literally, it's I think technically like fine-grained soil, I think is the way it's technically described, but humans have used different types of clays to make materials, ceramics, for thousands and thousands of years. It can make, of course, maybe most famously, pottery, but you can make tools with clay and things of a more practical or utilitarian nature. Maybe, on a conceptual level, there could be something to the idea that clay is a substance, a material that can be fashioned for different purposes, different uses. That feels like it could be very figuratively meaningful. Nevertheless, I'll see what I can catch on a first listen. This is Echo and the Bunnymen. The tune is Clay, and it's from their 1983 album Porcupine.
Am I the sucking sass? Losing billions, baby. More or less. More or less. More or less. I came apart. I wasn't made of sand. When you fell apart, they crumbled in my hands. When I came apart, I wasn't made of sand. I was the king, you were the able. When I came apart, they crumbled in my hands.
Wow, I'll try to speak to the lyrics while at least some of them are fresh in my head. Okay, so that main refrain of like, when I fell apart, I wasn't made of sand. When you came apart, clay was in my hand. So, okay, clay most specifically being referenced there, and I do wonder the I and you in this context. But okay, again, sand, fine grains that, are individual but can be made into something like with more macro substance or form or shape. Same with clay, but it can again crumble apart. It can revert to its more grainy texture. So I assume we're working in metaphor there, but I don't quite know what to make of it. Then we get that line at the end, like about him being Cain and the other person being Abel. The biblical narrative of a brother slaying his sibling. So I wonder if there's less like romantic relationship being discussed here and more like fraternal or more, people that are on the same level, but one is deliberately taking another one apart. I'm not sure. But yeah, so it seems like there's metaphor afoot. Certainly the sonics, a lot of energy, like I think it was like really fast guitar line coming in at a couple points that really caught my ear, the bass grooving away and, providing a very energetic and dynamic foundation. Definitely some rolling drums at some different parts. So yeah, like a lot of energy and varied composition to the tune sonically. Again, it seems like, Amber's even mentioned in a couple points where it's like, it's not really clear what it's about. I feel like they do deal in figurative meaning and poetic turns of phrase where you can take the lines in some different ways, but there's not likely to be a definitive, clear and unequivocal meaning or reason or narrative behind the lyrics. I feel like that's likely the case here. But again, it's really interesting because I think there's still a bit of like post-punk energy to this. It's, closer to what you might call like synth rock or, like 80s rock, but it definitely retains a bit of that like raw energy of their earliest stuff, even if it's more polished here. Admittedly, less polished and pop sounding than the material we heard when going through the 87 self-titled album, which again, that makes sense. Like, they're evolving, they're, exploring different avenues of sonics, but yes, jumping back from 87 to 83, it makes sense that this sounds a little closer in its raw intensity or energy to some of the earliest stuff, and a bit less pop polish compared to some of the later stuff. So yeah, ultimately I am curious what people may have to say about this one. I definitely enjoyed it, and it has this, classic sound to it. It just sounds like the best of the 80s in terms of like, capturing a bit of that experimental sound, but it's still catchy, and I don't quite know what it's about, but I'm intrigued by the lines I'm hearing. So yes, I'm very much enjoying this album, and indeed, once I started this album, it did seem like there were a number of folks who commented that, for them, this was like a special album, even if they weren't, huge Echo and the Bunnymen fans more broadly. So yes, I'm appreciating the journey through this album. As I said, Killing Moon will be coming in the not too distant future. I feel like I'll try to keep doing this, coming back to Echo and the Bunnymen every 2 to 3 weeks or so. And as I said, if you are interested, the first video reaction to Echo and the Bunnymen is now on my Patreon, though again, if you're only a free member, it'll still be a few days until it's viewable. In any case, from Luca and I, let me know what you're thinking, and I will see you for the next one. Peace.